In the rebalancing of the world economy towards Asia, do you see opportunities really in the developed world, that's in the United States and Europe, for example, and what would those opportunities really be?
Yeah, so I think there are huge opportunities for successful companies domiciled outside of this region to participate in this region as full and equal partners. Economic growth in the US and Europe continues to be disappointing relative to the standards of the post-war era. And so those companies are looking for growth opportunities. And even though growth here in Asia is down some significantly from the pre-crisis area, there are still huge opportunities for them to be developing the products, their services, and competing in a new environment.
Now, you served with the Federal Reserve, so what would you feel would be the result of tapering on the world economy? What are the sort of likely aspects that you see arising in the actual event of tapering?
Right. So I've been gone from the Federal Reserve for about 2.5 years, and so obviously I'm outside the corridors of that discussion. But I think the couple of things to remember are, first, we have one integrated global economy. We have one set of integrated financial markets. There is a tendency for us in the US, and I presume for other regions of the world, to think about the economy on a regional basis, to think about the impact of policy from the Federal Reserve predominantly in the US. But monetary policy leaks. It leaks from the US to the rest of the world. Policy is contagious. If the US chooses to taper, it will suggest that the Federal Reserve believes with some confidence the real economy in the US has reached escape velocity, that the global economy is healing rather nicely, and they feel comfortable pulling back. Now, even if that forecast is true, even if they make that tapering decision with some conviction, I don't think any of us can say with any precision what will be the impact on asset prices around the world, what will be the impact on other central banks. This is a relatively novel experiment.
Now, you have been an emissary for the Federal Reserve on emerging economies. Bearing in mind those emerging economies have not done that well, or it's certainly been patchy in 2013. What do you see the outlook for in 2014, and do you really think that the growth prospects in emerging countries is actually at an end?
I was neither as ebullient about the prospects for the so-called BRICS when this was commonplace among investors, nor am I terribly dark about it. Ultimately, what matters to an economy is far less what central bankers do and far more what's happening to the underlying fundamentals of the economy. So overall, I would say that the emerging market economies have great promise, and that promise needs to be matched by good fundamentals in policy and also good fundamentals by the decision makers on the front lines of business.
Mr. Warsh, I wonder if I could ask you then, really looking forward, what you see for 2014. Do you have a positive outlook?
The economy in the US, the economy in Europe, and many of the advanced economies have not taken off as many economists and many organizations thought they would over the course of the last several years. Now, my judgment for why that's so is more about policy than it is anything else. If policy is not more growth favorable, if policies that are undertaken in the US and around the world are not undertaken with a view towards expanding markets through a robust free trade agenda, aren't more clear about the rules of the road with a clear regulatory agenda, aren't more focused on a long-term fiscal trajectory, then economic growth is likely to be next year about where it has been over the last couple.
So it seems to me from your statement there that you're rather guarded about what you see as your outlook for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think if we take the science of economics seriously, we should be making our judgments on future prospects, not based on some hope, not based on some model, but based on the data. And my sense of contemporaneous real-time data from companies across the globe is that the economy isn't sinking, that economic growth isn't deteriorating, but there's not a lot of data to suggest that the economy is poised to get to the higher level in 2014.
So really looking at the question of trade, would you say that the Trans-Pacific Partnership Arrangement, which the United States has entered into with other countries. Is this sufficient, really, for what you would see as an appropriate tilt for the United States economy towards the East?
The trade agenda, broadly speaking, with the U.S.'s role and our big trading partners, the trade agenda, broadly speaking, has been relatively dormant for several years across administrations in the U.S. The U.S. needs to bang the table on the virtues of free trade, needs to describe to our trading partners around the world that trade is not a zero-sum game, that trade creates new opportunities for the global economic pie to get bigger and makes our companies in the U.S., your companies in Asia, more competitive, more productive, able to be more innovative, and ultimately to have more benefits for all of our populations. And I would say that trade agenda needs a real turbo boost.
Well, Mr. Warsh, thanks very much indeed for those comments, and very insightful too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here at FGI.